excellent. It's very excellent here on the Streakers Island podcast. It is not Mr. Burns. It is Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst, here at 12:01 in the morning on Thursday, because we record as late or as early as physically possible to make sure we give you the most up-to-date sports news. And of course, I'm joined by two of the greatest guests on the island. Lane Dashing Dashco decided that he needed to take a break from the island. He's gone to get Chazzy some milk from the local 7-Eleven. But of course, he's got to take the canoe.
Some of that organic original stuff.
He had a headache.
We are joined by Mr. More for Your Money.
Woo!
And the one, the only, Chazzy 6.998.
Ooh, cool. 7.
We're very close to 7 heaven, not the TV show, Mr. Moore Forks. I know that's where you're going. But
it's a TV show at one point.
You were a TV show at one point. But anyways.
Well, it feels that way.
Let's get into what we're going to talk about today, and that's Week 6 in the Canadian Football League, plus some more CFL news involving a player who got suspended, maybe a guy who shouldn't be suspended. Dan's wearing a CFL shirt, so he wanted to puff his chest out for anyone who's just listening on Spotify.
Winton McManus. I can't flex my chest the way Chazzy can. I can definitely pump it up.
But we're also going to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays, who have snapped the winning streak at 10.
Oh, no.
Great winning streak, but what does that mean for the Blue Jays moving forward?
One off the franchise record, wasn't it?
Yes. Ryan Reaves had dinner. And apparently that makes news because it was with Mitch Marner. So we're going to
can't let Mitchy Marner go.
He made on another podcast that's not as good as the Streakers Island podcast.
I will say, when Ryan Reaves ate an incredible amount of tacos for dinner, that made the news. That's a talent. Oh, I've never seen one man ate so many tacos in my life.
We're also going to get into the new CBA in the NHL that's going on to 29-20. 30 with 2 major changes that we really want to talk about. And last but certainly not least, Gavin McKenna has signed an NCAA deal, paying him way more than I was expecting. Like, his meal allowance is going to be more than I make in a year. So we're going to have to get into that one there. He's going to be going out for dinner with Ryan Reaves, and he's going to have to pay for it.
Look forward to this topic.
And anything else that I feel like talking about. But I want to start off.
What do I want to talk about?
I'm the producer. You're not. To get absolutely wrecked. But Dan, you'll be happy because we're starting with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays suffered their first loss of July. Haven't lost a game since June. And it was to the Chicago White Sox, which you would think if this streak was going to end, it would not be against the Chicago White Sox.
I mean, it's good that we're in the 10th day of July this got the first loss. It wasn't like July 1st.
It was the 9th day, not the 10th, but that's okay, Mr. Moore.
Close enough.
But my big question is, and I think I already know what Dan's answer is going to be, are we going to see the Jays of old now that the winning streak is over? And maybe I'm Mr. Negative about this team. I'm not as bad as the Yankee announcer who says they shouldn't be in first because their run differential is not very good. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're winning games. You look at that stat if you're losing games. If you're winning games, no one cares that you're winning a bunch of close games as long as you're winning. But I am very curious to see what the next 5 games are like for the Jays. If they can at least go 3-2 in their next 5. If all of a sudden they go 2-3 or 1-4, then there's going to be some concern in Jays land, especially considering the Yankees are starting to find that their bats belong in their hand and not in the dumpster. And they've been starting to play a bit better. But Dan, do you feel the way I do right now, or do you think it's one loss? They're just going to pick right back up in their next series?
Do everyone thought I was crazy here on the island when I said many episodes ago Jays are going to have 98 wins this season? And maybe that is ludicrous. However, the way I look at it, we've had Brissett and Vladdy Guerrero Jr. for roughly about 8 years now, right? And they were young. That's why you blew up the team with Price and Donaldson and Batista for these young studs to start. I do think it's stuck with our team for one more year. But anyway, it's another topic. The way I look at it, these players had to be good eventually. And the Blue Jays were bad for so long, they had a very good farm system in AAA in Buffalo. So I'm like, well, eventually these players have to make the MLB. And eventually the players like Brissett and Vladdy will step up to be the leaders that they were meant to be. Well, contract years here. Vladdy side with $500 million. Bossett's trying to prove his worth, and voila, they decided to leave the team. Good job, boys. And the younger guys are stepping up, filling in for the spots. So all those terrible years to get high draft picks have finally paid off. Now, to answer Jacob's question about what I think about this loss, I don't think it's all that bad. Because last time they played the Chicago White Sox, they lost the series. I think they almost got swept, if I'm not mistaken. And this time, they won the series, and they lost by 1-1. Okay, it wasn't like it was a blowout. And considering they lost the whole series to Chicago last time, it's a step in the right direction. You're still about, 14 games over 500, which is pretty good. So you think about if they can play consistently about 6 wins, 4 losses every 10 games, so close to 500, they got a very good chance of winning. If they can do that the rest of the year, they got a very good chance of winning the division. They are already almost at the All-Star break, and that, mind you, Jacob, 54 wins going into an All-Star break is a franchise record for this team. And we're not even at the All-Star break yet. We still have the series against the Oakland A's. So they could pull up a win or 2 there. So I don't know. It's not just a 10-game winning streak. That's cute. But they've also done what? They only lost like 10 games in the month of June. Like they've been consistently good for quite a while now in order to get 14 games over 500. So I think his team is getting close to being the real deal.
I agree with you to an extent, but I think now, I always say your most important games are not your winning streak. It's what you do after the winning streak.
Oh, for sure.
And you play the Athletics next and then the Giants, and then you go back to the Sky Dome to have it through, okay, fine, the Rogers place or whatever they call it now. But it's still always the Sky Dome, this old fogey. But now you have 2 more series before you face off against the Yankees again. The Blue Jays of old would do in the next 6, they would lose 4 or 5 after a winning streak. Am I right? I am right. If you look back in the history books, that's what they've done. The key for the Jays is now, to the next 6 games, they need to win 4.
Yeah.
Which means you need to win these 2 series against the Athletics and the Giants, which, Chaz, you correct me if I'm wrong, I believe those are winnable series.
Well, coming up against the Athletics, yes. And I'd say it's more important to keep this momentum going into the All-Star break.
100%.
Because some of these teams, you never know what you're going to get on the other south side of this All-Star break, right? So,
that's right.
Like you said, now you're going to face the Yankees, and then you're going to face another divisional rival at the end of the month, the Baltimore Orioles, on a 4-game. I think they're making one of their games is a makeup. So you got 4 games in 3 nights. So
that's tough.
And I mean, to the Yankees as well, they've just won 3 straight.
Yep.
Coming off of a huge losing streak, right? If they have a chance today to sweep the Mariners, and
but that's doable for the Yankees.
That's doable for them, and then they close out before in the All-Star break against the Cubs. So all I mean about the Jays is, yes, what they've done is incredible. You know what? They had an amazing June. They've started really strong in July. But going into this All-Star break, you need to win this series. And I'm not even saying you need to sweep the Athletics.
No.
But you got to win 2 out of 3. They say 2 out of 3 ain't bad when they're looking at viewer discretion as advised. So viewer discretion is advised if they don't win 2 out of 3. And my worry is for the Jays, if you go into the All-Star break, let's say on a bit of a slump, let's say you only win 1 out of the next 3, and then you go losing 3 out of 4. If you go back to this loss against the White Sox going into the All-Star break, then that's a really bad momentum killer after how well you've played, right? And then you go and face the Giants, who I don't think they're a phenomenal team, but if memory serves me right, they're also not terrible. And
no.
I mean, they did just get destroyed 13-0 by the Phillies, so maybe they do suck. But
the Phillies are a pretty good team.
You actually look at the Giants at 51 and 43. So in argument's case, you could argue the Jays and the Giants are comparable.
What's the Oakland A's? I think for just over 500, if I'm not mistaken.
But I believe the Jays should beat the A's. Like when. Yeah, the A's are 37 and 55. So, like, that's a series you need to win, right? Sure. And I agree with Craig so much that if I could reach through the screen and give him a big hug, I would. That I would definitely feel this next series is important for the Jays. Almost as important to know that we will be selling Streakers hats very soon. Shameless plug, sponsored, just like the Aussie man. But Chazzy is wearing a sample of what the hat will look at. So picture a beautiful Streakers logo on that hat. And they will be for sale very soon. We will have pre-orders available hopefully within the next week or so. So make sure you're staying locked to all the social media so you hear about that. Unfortunately, Dan's hat is not. Well, Dan might sell his hat to the highest bidder.
Oh, 100% I will.
But
even has my sweat in it. No, I was just going, which is my DNA. So, hey, maybe I could have a child outfit if the hat comes available. You never know, right? But I will, cloning's a thing.
This is one time I really wish I could swear on the island and just give a big old "Where's the fudge?" But continue, Dan.
Well, the thing is, one thing I should mention about the hats too is that a portion will be going to girls minors hockey, which is very important as well. We're going to support a local grassroots team, so stay tuned for that information too, because we want to give back here on the island as well, right? The other thing I was going to mention was I hate to say it, but I think for the Yankees, that blowout Bloom sweep against the Blue Jays was a huge wake-up call for the Yankees. I think it was a momentum switch for them.
But, I mean, the main thing is, Dan, I agree with you, the Jays can continue to win 6 out of 10 games down the rest of the season, which I think is doable for this club.
I do too, yeah.
Good position. I will say now, and I'm going to put this here right on the island right now, if the Toronto Blue Jays do not make the playoffs, they will only have themselves to blame at this point.
100%.
They have a tough. I don't know. They got a tough August.
I don't care.
September too. So if this is the real, if they're the real deal, we're gonna find it real quick, real soon.
I think we say 0-60 real quick.
I'm going to say this too. I don't think.
Can you say real anymore?
I don't think Bo Bichette signs a deal until this team sees what they do to finish the year.
Yeah, but they're going to end up paying him for that.
There's no salary cap in baseball, is there, Craig?
No.
Then who cares? Pay them. They have money. Pay me while you're at it too. I would love to not go broke with just to try to buy a foot long hot dog at AMJ's game. So like $15.
Well, I said this on the island before. I'll say it again. You're the only Major League Baseball team in the whole country.
That is ridiculous.
And you're owned by Rogers, bro. Rogers is not a poor company. They own half of the Maple Leafs. So they have the money to spend. So it's no salary cap. Pay up. And I think if they can go consistently 6-10 from here, especially till trade deadline, watch out for them to be buyers and make a big move. I think it's going to be really exciting trade deadline. I think, unfortunately, a big signing remain in the offseason in not Snyder.
Santander.
Sanchez, right?
Santander
hasn't quite worked out because of the injury. So let's see another big splash coming on deadline. I don't know who's going to be available and what contracts are up and all that, but I'm sure there'll be more information out there when we get closer to the deadline. And I think we're going to see Blue Jays do something pretty big here. I really do.
Now, this isn't on the script at all, but I'm just going to throw this out here since Dan mentioned a key thing that I think needs to change. The only Canadian team in the MLB.
Yes.
Why? I think Vancouver could support a team. I think Montreal could support a team. And I think Ottawa could support a team.
I'll tell you why exactly. But it's not a answer people may not like. But the problem is our dollar's not worth enough.
No, that is the lamest
and
excuse.
People get taxed way too much here.
That is the lamest excuse
It's all true.
Okay, then how did the Winnipeg Blue Bombers make over $20 million in profit last year, Mr. Morfor?
Okay, a baseball team needs to make more than $20 million.
I'd be Craig, would you be happy to make $20 million to own a team?
Nah, baseball team.
Yeah, in baseball, when you're the Yankees roster's worth $500 million.
No, that's $20 million in profit, boys.
You can't do that. You can't spend $500 million and only make $20 million profit.
You got to realize though, most owners of sports teams, and this is very interesting listening to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban said when he bought part of the Dallas Mavericks, he was not buying it to make money. He bought it because he wanted a sports team.
That's true.
He actually lost money
hobbies.
off that team in total, and he didn't
That's
care.
true.
So you know what?
That's a
I
good point.
honestly feel they'll put more teams in Canada, and I think they would support it. I say the exact same in the NBA. I don't know why we don't try an NBA team in Vancouver again. We want to put an NHL team in Atlanta for the third or fourth time. So let's try. Let's try another NBA team in Vancouver, because you know what? Canada is a lot different than what we were 20 plus years ago.
And I
We're
get
a much more diverse country, and especially a city like Vancouver has proven that they can handle multiple sports teams, because you have the Canucks, you have the Whitecaps,
yeah.
and you have the BC Lions, all of them running successfully. So they've proven they can handle it. And also, too, a lot of people in BC go to Seattle, except right now, because the world is the world, and a lot of Canadians aren't going to the States. This is the perfect opportunity to put more teams in Canada in these sports. I mean, the NHL, as much as I would love to see another team in Canada, I can understand it's like, okay, there's already 7 teams at least. But the NBA and the MLB, there is one team in there for each league, and both teams are very successful. And Canada has big enough cities. Like Ottawa's over 1 million people, and then you'd add Gatineau in there, which is also a fairly large region. And I mean, Montreal has wanted their Expos back for years, so let's do it.
100%.
So what about on the maybe is this a wide open sort of gray opportunity for leagues like the WNBA to bring more pro women's teams?
Yeah.
What do they got? The Toronto Scepters coming?
Yeah. Well, Scepters are the PWHL team. I cannot remember the name of the WNBA
on the women's
team.
hockey, but on the WNBA
But yeah,
side,
it's an interesting point. Should we see more women's sports fill that market?
Wow.
it could be
Will
a
we see a
huge
WNBA
opportunity.
team in Ottawa?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? You already have the facility because you have a hockey rink. You could easily convert that into a basketball rink.
But look how successful the Canadian women's hockey teams are doing. Why couldn't you do that on the
PWHL hockey games
basketball
are
side?
selling out every game in Canada. Like, they love it here. To be honest, it's doing double the numbers of what it's doing in the States.
What
And
is
the
that?
WNBA right now, I think if you're going to expand that league more with the Caitlin Clark hype and the Angela Reese hate, which people will be go on about Angela Reese, but I'm going to say this. I don't know if Caitlin Clark would be so popular if Angela Reese isn't the antagonist in that situation. It's like your Daniel Alfredson to Matt Sundin back in the day, right? Like, people love the drama. They love the beef. So this, unless they're a vegan. But this is the perfect time. I agree with you, Craig. Maybe the WNBA needs to be looking into these
Vancouver, they could do a WNBA, no?
It would do so well. You look in the Canadian Elite Basketball League, there's teams out in these other markets, and they're doing really well. So put an even higher level up there. I think it would do awesome. I would love to see a WNBA team in Vancouver and Ottawa.
As crazy as it sounds, we have a friend of ours, Ryan, who works with the basketball team in Sudbury. And Sudbury's a small city. I'm not saying they can support a great big franchise, but they sell quite a few tickets to that basketball. There's a lot of support out there, right? I just want to say here, as you made me think of some good points here, Jacob, that's a very good speech. I wouldn't say rant. It wasn't a full-blown rant, but very good speech. The Atlanta thing in the NHL makes zero sense to me. I'll tell you why. I understand.
It's failed every time.
Yeah, like I understand if you had a team back in the 60s or 70s and you want to try now. I totally get. Seattle's a prime example. People forget, but the NHL did attempt to have a team in Seattle way back in the day. Okay? And it didn't work out. But Seattle's a much bigger city now. So I get plenty of there now. It's done very well. Fine and dandy. Atlanta was in the NHL in all of our lifetime. Okay? So, I mean, has it even been 20 years yet? Because you have players like, well, Zach Bogosian's a prime example. Zach Bogosian, not currently signed, but he probably will sign before October starts. He is a current NHL player, and he played for Atlanta Thrashers. So why are you trying this again? In my opinion, it's way too soon. As much as I said my thing about the Canadian markets, call me crazy. I do think Quebec City can support an NHL team. and I think we could win with 8.
Well, yeah, because you'd have an instant rivalry there between those two.
I don't really think that.
Actually, I've argued too when you're talking CFL expansion. I know now we've just getting into expansion. I think Quebec City would be a great market for a Canadian Football League team. Canadian
100%.
football excels in B markets. And I'm not saying that even as a diss.
No.
But, and mind you, I say it excels in B markets, but I wouldn't call Vancouver a B market, and it does very well in Vancouver.
I mean, look how good lacrosse does the smaller markets, right?
But, like, so maybe that's where the WNBA, as you said, Craig, and the PWHL, maybe that's where they need to look into more of their expanding. Actually, the WNBA, I think, really could expand in Canada. And the NBA does use the WNBA as somewhat as a tester league because they do support that league, which I'm not criticizing. I think that's a great thing. So maybe if you're debating on putting an NBA team in Vancouver, why not try a WNBA team first and see how it works? See if people go. See if there's interest.
Well, you think about, I think Vancouver.
If you're going to tell me, Dan, that people don't want to pay the taxes to live in Vancouver, one of the most beautiful cities in North America, you're crazy.
Well, for sure.
I'm telling you right now, if people are making $300,000-400,000 a year, they'll pay a little bit of tax to live in Vancouver. I'm sorry, instead of Buffalo, and that's my point. Right? Everyone goes on about these non-tax states, blah blah blah. Well, there's a quality of life thing. Number one on that, and number two. Realistically, I thought Matthew Nyes worded it best. He was talking about his contract talk, saying whether I made $6 million or $8 million, it isn't really going to change my life in any ways. And I think for these athletes, WNBA, they get paid not as much as the NBA, but it's not like they're being paid $5 and a ham sandwich. Mm-hmm. So like they're making enough money that I think they could still want to play in these other markets. And Dan, you always go on Vancouver is one of the nicest cities in the world. So you're telling me you wouldn't pay an extra 5% tax to live in Vancouver?
I would, but a
lot of other people would too.
Some people would. To answer your question, the best solution,
they're excited to be there.
The best solution to your problem is Florida. Because Florida, you get the perfect weather and everything, but you don't pay taxes.
Dan, there are a lot of people who don't want to live in America, whether you like it or lump it. Like I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to live in the States. I wouldn't want to move to Florida. Number one, it's way too hot.
I love the heat. I'm okay with that.
But I think what Morfor's trying to say is Florida won the cup this year only if Toronto would have beat them.
But we got way off topic about expansion. But actually, I do have a friend a viewer of the program, Baron, who is very into metrics and geography, and he has a lot of theories about expansion, so we should have him on at some point because that'll be he was telling me all about it one day, and it is fascinating the way he's broken down which cities could work for which leagues.
What a unique thing to be into. I can't say it's like bad or weird, but just very interesting and unique. I mean, most people are into like sports or music or cars. I'm into geography.
He's also into sports. He's a Hamilton Tiger Cat fan, but
so he's not really into sports.
Well, on the WNBA side,
fans in the CFL, so who knows?
But on the WNBA side, Toronto, it's their team starts next year, 2026. The Tempo, right?
Yeah, the Tempo. That's it.
Tempo, yes, that's it.
Tempo.
So it'll be very interesting to see how they do in Canada. I think they're going to do really well, by the way.
I think they'll do significantly well. Absolutely.
And I think, too, if you put a WNBA team in Vancouver where they're starving for more, Vancouver wants to become Toronto with a nicer view.
Well, for sure. The thing with Vancouver is people look at it as a small city. Because the population in the actual city of Vancouver is only about 700,000-800,000. But there's a lot of communities around. So in the greater Vancouver area, probably around 3 million, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing is, when I've been in Vancouver, there's still Vancouver Grizzly stuff everywhere. Mm-hmm. They had the Grizzlies in the 90s. And Vancouver is much bigger and much more booming than it was 30 years ago. And the other thing you see in Vancouver, you'll be shocked. You'll see tons of Toronto Blue Jays stuff and tons of Seattle Mariners stuff. So they obviously want baseball there. And I think Montreal could easily support the Expos again. I really do. I mean, Ottawa has a farm team, a baseball farm team, and they do very well. Like we said, Ottawa has well over 1 million people, and in the smaller areas of the towns too, with all that, probably about 1.5. So why could they not support a baseball, basketball team too. So, I mean, who knows, right? The NHL keeps expanding. And then you get the argument with the NFL coming to Canada, but they tried out the Bills. And
that's just a stupid idea. Because even when the Buffalo Bills played in Toronto, nobody went.
No, but I think they got greedy. Their tickets were insane.
Their tickets were
it was nuts.
But
they didn't do that.
My
the pricing of that whole aspect.
Oh, it was crazy.
That exercise was insane.
And it was in Sky Dome, which doesn't work for football.
No, it's a terrible venue for football. But
no, they just overpriced themselves.
They did, yeah, 100%.
But I wonder here. So Seattle's AAA team is currently in Washington. I just looked it up on the interconnected webs. Why not put that team in Vancouver?
Yeah.
That might be an interesting way to kind of test the market.
Well,
or even better, I still want to. You guys may think I'm crazy. I would love to see a really high-end competitive softball league. The way they do those crazy whip pitches underhand and on the smaller diamond, it's exciting. I watched some of that, and I'll be honest. In a way, I thought it was more exciting than the MLB.
Whoa. I think ESPN just had the women's college just on.
That's what I was watching.
Yes.
And it was high energy.
It's a good
ripping
game.
So quick, right? You don't have time to make plays. I love it.
Yeah. Well, they're so close. It's just so a lot of action.
Oh, definitely. But I think it's time we move on because that was a 20-minute topic we weren't planning on talking about. But that's what we do on the
talking about there?
I will say, though, I think that's another conversation for another day on expansion. Maybe that's a live show idea coming up in the near future. But let's move on now to the Canadian Football League. And I want to talk about a suspension to Lions defensive lineman Kimo Terry following the post-game brawl. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, where the Lions won the game 21-20 off a walk-off field goal. And the 29-year-old was verbally yelling at defensive lineman Isaac Berglund, who lunged towards him and was held back by team and staff members. Now, I find the interesting thing is the BC Lions defensive lineman is the only one who wasn't suspended from this incident. Only one who was suspended, I should say, sorry. And I don't agree with that personally. I think there should have been multiple suspensions.
But he's the one that went down the walkway.
But apparently,
exactly my point. He's the one that started.
Okay. Hold on. But here's why. Is he said to Third Down Nation that he was having a conversation with Montreal's offensive lineman Jamar McCloster, who he knew previously. And when he was approached individually telling him to leave the area, he said that Berglund first lunged at him when he tried to leave. So he was talking to his friend, as football does. That's something you do at the end of a football game. You're like, good job, man. Good to see you, blah, blah, blah. And then
why was he in their dressing room?
He wasn't in the dressing room. He was in the hallway because he went up to go talk to his buddy who played for the other team. Okay, in theory, yes, but this happens in football more than you realize.
True.
I also think Berglund from Montreal also should have been given a 1-game suspension because the one guy in theory probably shouldn't have went down the hallway. But if I walk down your hallway, it doesn't mean you can lunge and punch me in the face. So. And it was a game earlier, but hold on. Remember, too, earlier in the game, you gave Montreal a 15-yard penalty for a punch that barely even connected. So if you're going to say it's a penalty on the field and it's not a suspension off the field, I don't know. I just think for all fairness, I would have liked to see a suspension on each side here because I think that would have sent a message like, yeah, you know what? Don't get involved. Don't lean as far as Dan does. You might break the chair, but then also, don't swing and punch back either. I just think this is one that I don't think the CFL got this right here. I think you either suspend both or fine both.
Huh.
So you're saying the Alouette player lunged at him
first
because
he did.
At the end of the game of what happened? That's sort of what why he.
So what happened was the BC line player went down the tunnel, which he shouldn't have, to talk to his buddy. Then when he was told to leave, he started to leave, and then the Alouette player lunged at him.
And they started
a whole bench clearing brawl.
But they had an altercation on the field at the end of the game.
I don't know if it was these two exact players, but there were altercations at the end of the game between these two teams because it was a controversial ending to
that was going to be my point.
So he got an extra game, or the BC player got the game, the only one that got suspended.
Yeah.
Did anybody else get fines?
Multiple fines on both sides.
Well, what are we talking? 5,000?
Yeah, around there. Like nothing.
Yeah. And then that's it.
Yes, I don't think the league handled this well.
Oh, so
I don't agree with you.
They're waiting for the next brawl they hit.
But the weird thing is, though, brawls aren't common in football, right? Football, you try to murder each other until the whistle blows, and you're helping each other up. That's 100%. The way football is. It's a gentleman's sport.
It is. Well, sure,
hockey, which I think is more of who we'll just call them smelling salts, did the most smelling salts before they went on the ice. But I'm looking here, and I just think the Canadian Football League should have suspended both players because I think they were both in the wrong and they both caused the altercation. What do you mean, no, Dan? Dan, if I walk up to you in the middle of the street and call you an F and A-hole, right? I'm not going to say the words on the island, and you punch me in the face, we're both being charged. Yes, we are.
Well, it's not real life. This is a game.
This is real life.
The reason why I disagree
with you. Hockey, look in hockey. If one person says words and the other guy punches them, the guy who punched him probably gets the bigger penalty.
Not all the time. Look at
words aren't as dangerous as fists.
No,
like if I say to Craig, I don't like your nose, and Craig punches me in the head and slams me 3 feet through a concrete wall, that's going to do more damage than me saying I don't like your nose. Which Craig, by the way, has a lovely nose.
Beautiful.
Well, did you guys see what was the enforcer? The retired NHL enforcer just knocked out a guy on the golf course.
Yes.
No.
So I just mean, I don't know. I would like to see suspensions on both sides here to just say, look, you were both idiots. Damn, but they were both idiots.
I don't agree. Let me explain why, real quickly. The reason why
everyone get yourself a drink. Dan's going to be 10 minutes.
No, I'm not. The reason why is because of the McLeod Bethel Thompson interview. That was right after the heat of a moment. He's very calm and collective guy. He saw how angry he was, and he said, "Yeah, that player came into our hallway and started throwing punches." And I believe that's what happened.
There at the start of it, Dan. He doesn't know the full story at that time.
I think he did.
No, he didn't. You can't. I'm just saying, I will say I'm very curious to see what happens next time Montreal plays BC. So that's exciting, at least.
Very exciting.
But Craig, I kind of want your take on it because you can kind of be the decision maker here. I think both players should have been suspended. Dan thinks the CFL got it right. What are your thoughts?
Well, just hearing how you're breaking it down here, I think, maybe both players suspended. This guy was just walking down the hallway or not noticing where he was, and he's just coming back out. So I don't know. There's a reaction. I don't know. You just give both guys, but just to your point, let's see what happens next time they play, because really you haven't really closed this ordeal at the moment.
But I just mean, if you suspend both players, we're probably not even having this conversation. It's done. We move on with our lives. So
but we need something to talk about. It's a slow week.
Apparently it's not. We've already been over half an hour. Apparently it's not a slow week. We're not even off.
But the hockey player I was thinking about was the Nick Tarnatsky.
I forgot about him. Yeah.
But anyways, I thought that was an interesting tidbit. And actually, I am going to flip our script a little bit. And before we get into week 6, let's stick on the suspension train here. And I want to talk about Shawn Lemon again.
Oh, we had a good talk about this in the previous episode.
We had a really good conversation about Shawn Lemon in the early days of the island before we built the expansion, and Craig put in the spa, and Dan ordered 15 root beer floats with the bellhop. Then we hired Lane on the show, so he's not just
portable freezers for ice cream.
Yes,
now Dan has to put his own ice cream in his wine glass. But Shawn Lemon was suspended for breaking the rules CFO gambling policy, which the argument was always...
Now, if he used the Streakers app instead of gambling, he would have been fine.
Now, but here's the argument that I made before, because Craig, Dan, and I had a pretty heated argument about this, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, I guess. Was back when he did the crime, there was no gambling act because gambling was illegal in Canada. But he did bet on his own games, which is a major problem. As of July 4th, he can now appeal to be reinstated into the league. I've seen a lot of mixed comments if he should be allowed back into this league or not. Mind you, he was also caught with illegal drugs in his system in the preseason when he originally tried to appeal.
See, he served us not answered his phone, and everything would have been fine.
Yeah, he could have pulled his Zach Collaros. But the $1 million question is here. Should Shawn Lemon be let back in the league? Dan, what do you think?
Well, in today's crazy society, I think what Carter Hart did in the NHL was way worse. And with debate about him coming back to the NHL, why not let Shawn Lemon come back to the NHL? Shawn Lemon didn't hurt anyone but himself.
I don't agree with you. They didn't hurt anyone but himself. What happens now when I put $1,000 on the Alouettes? I call Shawn Lemon, who's my buddy, and say, "Hey, make sure you lose, and I'll give you half of it." Now what happens? Right, well, Craig, I think that was the argument you were making last time we were on about this topic. Like, and you actually changed my mind. At first, I thought, why not let him play? And then, Chazzy, it was you changed my mind saying that, what, he really shouldn't.
Like, how many years has it been that we all were talking about baseball and Pete Rose and everything, and they're all about he made bets on his own sport and his own game. Well, are we not talking about the same thing? And if you want to see it, and it's back onto the CFL, if you want to be looked at as a professional sport with integrity and class and take care of fan safety and legitimate game, well, you really, I don't know. I know he's the name and everything popular player, but at the end of the day, he did the actions on his own sport. If it wasn't his sport, maybe there could be some debate, but still, these leagues or these owners do not want this at all in their league. So
it's such a slippery slope, like I said. It's
much more
like taking
these
a dive
days
in
than it
boxing.
has in the past. So
and it's like taking a dive in boxing. Like, let's say Shawn Lemon bets on his team to lose. He's gonna get an interception that would seal the game, and he just drops the ball. Oops.
Well, just to what you're saying, they're more for, the whole gambling policy wasn't in effect, or it wasn't in effect for the CFL. Well, gambling wasn't all that big other than the underground back in the 70s and 80s when Rose was doing it, right? So
that's true. Yeah.
I find it's like 3,000 times worse now because of the stain it has. Like, you think of this guy playing, I don't know, as a fan, you're almost thinking about which side is he still doing it, and what side does he have today?
And that's my worry, right? Like, I think you would, every time he would make a mistake, I think you'd be questioning, did he actually make a mistake, or is this a bet?
Well, now I don't know the full extent, but I think it's Michael Beasley in the NBA right now is under investigation because of some actions that the way he's running down the court at some of the end of the games. Like, these guys are under microscopes now of sort of like fans are all over this. I don't think it's a good look.
No.
Also, too, I'm going to say for the CFO too, Shawn Lemon's maybe got 2 years left in him at the most. He's in his
So why would you want to do
this? Why
this?
Bring him back?
Yeah. Why would you want to do that?
This might sound weird, but and I know there shouldn't be special treatment in sports. But let's say this was 15 years ago and it was Damon Allen, who was arguably the best player in the entire league. I wouldn't agree with it, but I'm like, well, he's the most exciting player to watch in football right now. And I don't think there should be special treatment, but you would get it a little bit more. But an aging defensive lineman, I don't.
See, I'm thinking it's straight across. You bet on your sport, your league.
Oh, you're done.
Team.
I think you're cooked.
To
add to Chazzy's point, because I think Chazzy made a really good point when he was saying Shawn Lemon is a popular player. I think it almost hurts him in this case because the CFL looks at it like, okay, this is a big name we can use to set the precedent, to set the example. Let's say I agree with Jacob, it shouldn't be special favors, but the reality is sometimes it is. Let's say there was a practice player, right? And some practice player did this. They might say, oh, yeah, we can suspend him as no one's going to miss him, which I don't think is true, but you can see that. But Shawn Lemon is arguably MOP for Montreal, and it sends a big message. They're completely different situations, but it's kind of like Chad Kelly. It's like they didn't just say, "Oh, he's the best player in the league." No, I didn't agree with the suspension personally, but the rule was that's how it was written in the CBA, and that's why they gave him the suspension. Didn't matter if it was Chad Kelly or some practice quarterback. It's like, nope, you're the biggest player in the league. And according to our rule, you broke it, so we're suspending you. And I think it gives to Travis's point that it makes the CFL more of a credible league because people do question it as being a joke of a league. As I say, we really think that you really have to give it a chance. But
well, what do they always say in sports? Next man up. They'll be the next
100%.
Yeah. And also, too, to bring my point home, too, Shawn Lemon is 36.
Yeah.
At 36 for...
He's older than me.
You're maybe playing this year and next. And that's even pushing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But your league's going to be for the next 5, 10,
I don't see the upside
50 years.
Why is that?
I don't see the upside in letting him back.
Too much of a stain. CFL. It's a stain.
I think, if anything, if he wants to go play football, he can go to the XFL or the UFL.
Well, for sure. I mean, look, we're already in the 112th Grey Cup coming up this year, right? So it's not unreasonable for the CFL to play another 50, 75 years, right? Because one of the very few leagues in North America is a 3-generation league.
Yeah.
So...
No, I think right now is more time to put your foot down because if you sort of loosen the reins right now, especially with the gambling and the gaming and pro sports, like then now you have a gray area. Now it's going to be on your name or how much money you make. Well, I don't know. You gotta nip it now.
And don't get me wrong, Shawn Lemon's a good player and he's an exciting player and. If he didn't do what he did, he's good for the league.
Pete Rose was one of the best baseball players, arguably, they've said for years, right?
He was.
I think this is the perfect time for the Canadian Football League, especially with a new commissioner in town, to just put his foot down and say, if you bet, you're gone.
Yeah, I agree.
I think people respect that.
If you bet in the league, like, okay, I'm going to put it this way.
Respect that.
Let's say Shawn Lemon bet on a tennis match in Wimbledon. I don't really care. I wouldn't have a problem with it. But if you bet on, it's not even just his own league. He bet on his own games. And that really, and now he never bet saying they'd lose. He always bet saying that they would win. But that to me, that's not the point. For all you know, he could have insider knowledge that the other team's quarterback's hurt.
True.
So he's going to push. Or what if he says to another teammate, let's say he's friends with another, I'm not going to name any names because I don't want anyone thinking I'm accusing certain players of doing something that I'm not. But let's say he's friends with a player on another team and say, hey, if you make sure you guys lose, I put $500K on this game that we're going to win, which with 4-1 odds, we'll split it 50-50.
Where does it end?
Like, where does it end, right? And that's just my... And, Dan, you may say that's a big bet, but what happens when Drake calls Shawn Lemon on a Grey Cup game that he's in saying, hey, make sure you lose now, and I'll throw you $300,000.
So, I can see Drake do that.
Also, some of these sports books, I don't know if it's because of this incident, but when they're posting their CFL action, they don't let you do parlays. They will only allow you to do those single picks.
Oh,
to deter basically what we're talking about.
Wow.
So it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those things. I think it muddies the water too much. So yes. I think for the CFL, especially
crystal clear.
I might even feel different if he was a young kid who bet on a game once and
that'd be even worse.
And I don't know if it would be worse, Craig, because people make mistakes. But Shawn Lemon is old enough to know better.
You're fully aware of the ramifications on betting.
No,
on
but
your
back
own
then
league,
you weren't fully aware because there wasn't really any regulations on it. So let's say, just hear me out for a second. Let's say a young kid out of college, before there was any betting regulations on it, placed a bet for him to win, and there was no evidence that he tried to throw the game either way. He should be suspended. But I don't know if I can life when he's like 19 or 20 years old.
But we just said, where is the end to that?
Right. I totally agree with
younger kids. You're just almost like he kind of got away with it.
Maybe look, you had Sidney Crosby as a captain when he was 21. So you expect a young player to be a captain of a team. You have to expect him to know what gambling is, right? I mean, whether it's fair or not, you have an 18-year-old versus a 40-year-old. They treat it the same as the field. It's the same penalties on the field. It's the same drug suspension. It's the same suspension for dirty hits. I mean, it's simply the same suspension for gambling too, regardless of the age. And I really recommend people to find our previous conversation about this, because Chazzy changed my mind as well on this, and no one else did before, but Chazzy did. So I highly recommend people go
I
back
think it
to
was-
the archives.
Yeah,
and
No,
watch
maybe
but-
do it.
But I think it's just more of the athlete mindset too, because it was ESPN. I think it was ESPN. They had a 10 episode. I forget what it was called, but they went through some of these. I think it was Arizona State with one of their players in his early career, going to be the next basketball player in the 90s. He got wrapped up in some side betting on his games and everything. But if you look at how his story happened, and the one rolled into multiples because of the money, the easiness.
Mhm.
So you get this precedence of multiple players getting into this mindset and the ease of, oh, I could just do it one more time, which always they like these guys that have actually done it. They're like, it's not just the one more time. It's the next time. It's the next time. And then the hamster wheel's running.
Yeah.
And how do you get yourself out? Well, then you've blown up your career. You're just blowing up all these $1 million sponsorship deals. You got to have it, especially in today's day and age of sports gambling and pro sports, and the amount of money that's going into these teams and leagues, and how these teams and leagues are all focused on the integrity and the respect of the game. You gotta be direct and be a hard line on. You bet on your sport. You bet on your team. It's see ya.
Well, 100%.
Well, and I
mean,
also think too, for Shawn Lemon especially, failing a drug test when he appealed also didn't help.
that's
If it was
true.
a suspension, by the way, I'm lit. That's not. I honestly think, and you know what, as much as I said, maybe it's different for a young kid, I do get what you guys are saying, that at the end of the day, rules are rules, and you need to set a hard line. And for that, I'm going to get real close to the camera here and say the hard line has been set in the Canadian.
Lay it on the line.
And I do not see Shawn Lemon getting away and getting back into the Canadian Football League. Not just as a player, but I don't even see him being allowed to coach.
No.
I think he's just, because that's another interesting thing. If he's suspended as a player, should he be allowed as a coach or a trainer? And I'm going to say no. Because again, what happened? I mean, we joke about it enough saying, oh, the referee's dog walker must have bet on the other team. But what happens when all of a sudden a guy was suspended for betting and he's officiating a game and he makes a call that is pretty suspect, right? And there's already enough speculation about things like that in professional sports. And I think this is a good chance for the CFL to really set a line in the sand, in the sand for all sports in Canada. Because remember, single game betting in Canada is very new. It's only been around for a couple years. So this is a good opportunity for the Canadian Football League to set a precedent saying, this is how you handle it when this happens.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, look, people might not know, but the game is kind of a prime example of this. He was a very phenomenal.
The game's a rapper, by the way, for people who don't listen to hip hop.
Yeah, Jocelyn Taylor. He was a phenomenal basketball player in high school. Actually got an NCAA contract. Phenomenal prospect, point guard, all-star basketball player, NCAA. But he failed a drug test. And because of that, he got kicked out. And it completely ended his career 100%. Now it worked out better for him. He's a multimillionaire as a rapper now, so it's all fine and dandy. But my point is, it's like, I don't think age really matters here. I think it's like, I don't care if you're 18 or 42. The rules are the rules, and you know them, and you got to follow them.
What if you're 17 or 43?
Same thing. I just mean because we're adults, right? But I mean, like, but you look at driving. Driving's prime example. How many times do we see online that a teenager with a G1 got caught, speeding or doing something reckless or whatever? They don't say, oh, well, you're just a teenager, have a nice life. No, you're pretty well
True.
done for life, and I think sports should be the same way.
And I find it right. Well, we're going to get into it here with the Neil deals, with the amount of money that's being thrown at some of these teenagers, right? It's I don't know. It's worse earlier in their careers than it is later in their careers where they should know better.
True.
Yeah.
But I think I don't see that he was already denied his appeal. But mind you, when he was denied his appeal, that was with the old commissioner. So I am curious to see what happens. I don't think he's going to be reinstated in the CFL, not just as a player. I don't think they should let him coach. I don't think they should let him be a trainer. I don't think they should let him be a broadcaster. Like, I think you should just, because remember, a lot of these players do move on to broadcasting, right? And I just think if he wants to do his own podcast, well, you can't stop him kind of deal. But like, I think it's just, you need to move on from this gentleman. I'm not even saying he's an evil human being. I don't know him on a personal level. And you know what? He says it was a mistake, and I understand that. But some mistakes, you have to just say, no, enough is enough. And I think with Mr. Lemon, it's time to move on. And just don't have him in your league. I don't see how the only way I could see it being a positive is if he somehow becomes a guy to speak out against gambling addictions, which I don't see that happening. So if the CFL used him as an ambassador for that, not let him play or coach or anything, but talk about everything he had to sacrifice because of his throw of trying to win $50, maybe that's a way you can do it. But
write a book.
Yeah, write a book.
It's hard for me to write a book. I'm dyslexic. All the letters would just
They usually write a book.
I will write a editorial book called My Dyslexia.
We can help with your gamification if he starts a podcast.
Perfect.
Well, it's a free play and earn. There's no gambling.
Well, look at Ricky Williams.
Only on the Streakers app.
Prime example, Ricky Williams. He had, I don't know the full story at the top of my head, but he got suspended in the NFL for whichever reason. So before he went back into the NFL, he went to the CFL, and he said pinball saved his life, right? And pinball got him back on the right track, and he came back to the NFL. So maybe even Shawn Lemon goes to a different league and repents and becomes a different person, then that could be another conversation. But I think what Jacob's point is, I think he's just too old at this point.
It's not another conversation, though. We can't be back in this league.
I agree with Jacob, too. This is a huge statement for the new commissioner to put his foot down. This one player can really show what the commissioner is all about and where he wants to take for the league and what direction he wants the future to be. So this is a huge statement move for the new commissioner.
And just even with pro sports now, and just like you're saying, failed drug tests, like we're almost becoming accustomed to it. Always suspended for 20 games, 30 games, and then we move on. I just feel with gambling, you sort of have that thought in the back of your mind, especially if you are one that's privy to putting some money on the game. You're always going to have that sort of thought in the back of your mind on if you win or lose of, was he involved? Did he take any side action? So I think that's why I'm like, you got to have a hard line. Don't bring any of that in, and just keep the fans happy and the integrity intact with your league and team.
Do what's the best part when Jacob does a zoom up? You can just see how awesome that beautiful hat is. And that beautiful hat can keep your head warm at night, and you're doing a good deed when you're doing it. So keep your eye on the social media for when those beautiful hats are coming.
Check out the website.
By the way, the hat does not come with a beautiful Craig. Now maybe we could start selling autographed pictures of Chazzy.
We can rent them out.
Yeah. You'll be going to some female birthday parties soon.
Anyways, we need to move on from that.
Cake?
Dan, Chazzy's married. Come on.
No, he's just probably on cake, not doing anything.
Jumps out of us for the love of his life. But let's move on to week 6 in the Canadian Football League with players who are actually playing in the league. And you got 3 games on the docket: Stamps versus the Riders, Red Blacks versus the Tiger Cats, and Elks versus the Lions. Funny enough, all 3 of these games are huge for standings.
For sure.
You got Hamilton looking to tie Montreal in points. Ottawa looking to tie Hamilton in points.
Wow.
Montreal's only won 3 games. Hamilton's won 2.
You didn't think we would have that conversation 3 weeks ago.
If the Stamps win, they could tie for first in the West with the Riders.
Wow.
And if the Elks win, they're tied with the Lions.
Crazy.
So,
are you
there might only
expecting
be
big
3
things out of
games.
Hamilton this weekend?
We might be in the game in Hamilton. It's a possibility. Apparently, you can get tickets as cheap as $25 if you're willing to sit in the nosebleeds.
But are you expecting as big of an offensive output than they did last week against your Argos?
Yeah.
No.
I
think every team, and you'll see the prop, I set it pretty high for Mr. Lawler, but I think every team now has been put on notice, especially with Bo Levi Mitchell smack talk after the game saying if you don't put double coverage on him, you're an idiot. I think teams are going to start double coverage and say, fine, beat me somewhere else, old man. And
that was pretty awesome.
What's his check downs? What's his option 2, 3?
Like, he's got Tim White, who is a good receiver, but has never really clicked with Bo Levi Mitchell. You look at the game against the Argos, Bo Levi Mitchell, and Mitchell had 5 touchdown passes, 3 of them to Lawler. He threw for like 330 something, I think. It was either 330 or 360, and Lawler was 207 of those yards. So it's like if you can take Lawler out of the equation, it's kind of like what I said with the Oilers. If you're able to take down McDavid and Draisaitl, there's not much left. I am curious to see if Ottawa just takes the approach, let's just shut down Kenny Lawler, and then we should be able to shut down the Tiger Cats. So you know what? Since we started on that, why don't we start with the Saturday night matchup in our Streakers app? Which, remember, all this will be in our sports booth on the Streakers app. If you haven't downloaded the app.
And we just talked a few hours ago on what we're going to have as our digital reward. Did we not, on the Island channel? So
we did. So I mean, we're gonna
things are coming.
We're gonna have some new digital rewards in there. So make sure you stay locked in. Who knows? Maybe they will be pictures of Chazzy, fully clothed. By the way, this ain't no OF. But let's get into this. And who do you guys take?
Pay me $20, you might get something.
No. Dan is not selling himself on the Streakers Live podcast. But let's start to break down this one. Who wins Saturday night? The Red Blacks or the Tiger Cats? Chazzy, I'm starting with you.
I'm gonna go with. I liked what I saw with the Hamilton Tiger Cats last week, so I'm gonna go with Lane's Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Lane did tell me before, like I said, he's gone to get Chazzy milk, that he was taking Hamilton in this one. So we know we have 2 for Hamilton out of the group. I'm going with Ottawa because I think, not just because I don't like Hamilton. That's not my only reason. I think the Red Blacks are now the most desperate team in the league for a win. And I think Hamilton is the roster to be a little cocky. Bo Levi Mitchell and Kenny Lawler both seemed pretty cocky after the win against Toronto. Surprisingly, Hamilton's defense was pretty cocky after the win against Toronto when he let a backup quarterback put up 38 points on you. Yeah. So, and Drew Brown, I'm just going to say this right now. Drew Brown is a better quarterback than Nick Arbuckle.
Yeah.
And I think Drew Brown looked a little off last week against Edmonton. So now he's got a full week. Mm-hmm. He's statistically good against Hamilton in his career. I think Ottawa's going to take this game. Dan, what are you thinking?
So are you thinking this is going to be more of Red Blacks defensive shutdown?
Well, the Red Blacks defense hasn't been good enough of late, right? So I think they've been sent a message to play better. Bob Dice did give them a bit of a cop-out, their coach, saying we've had injuries in the secondary, but he also did say the defense has to step up. So usually when you're called out by your coach to step up, there's a big game in you.
Well, basically, Jacob took the words out of my mouth. I think Ottawa is going to win this game because I think Ottawa is desperate. And I don't, call me crazy, but I don't think Ottawa is as bad as their record. I don't think so either. They finished off the year good last year. And the thing I do not understand whatsoever is I don't understand why Drew Brown is underrated as a CFL quarterback. It's like he was a backup of Zach Collaros, but I mean, most people are really backup of Zach Collaros, right? And since he became the guy in Ottawa, he has really stepped up some big 400-yard games. And it's like people still treat him as a backup quarterback, and that's not fair. I don't know, I guess because don't forget, Drew Brown also took Ottawa to the playoffs last year. They haven't made the playoffs in a couple of years before him. I really think he's a missing franchise piece, and he doesn't get the credit. And in order for him to get the credit, he has to start winning games that he's not expected to win. And I think Hamilton's a prime example. I think I think it will be a high scoring game because I think both Levi Mitchell and Lawler have found a special connection and a special love. But the thing is, once you set down those two, I think Hamilton doesn't have many more weapons besides of White, which I really like White. But, I think
Well, because Bridges has had a real sophomore slump for Hamilton this year.
Yes,
he was their leading receiver up until he got hurt last year. I thought he was a debatable rookie of the year, and this year he's just been kind of invisible. So
literally, I forgot about him.
I think I agree. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting game, but now let's get into the props here. And Dan, I'm giving you the first one. Red Blacks 3 touchdown passes.
Oh yeah, bro. Browns will have a big game.
Drew Brown for a big game. Chazzy. Kenny Lawler at least 160 yards is the prop I've set for him.
Wow.
160?
Yeah, 207 last week.
Nah, I'm going to say no. If you're thinking Ottawa's going to come to play, I think he could get 100 and something, but maybe not 160. I'm going to say no.
The only thing I will say, Kenny Lawler is arguably the best contested catcher in the league.
Oh, for sure.
So even if he's double teamed, I don't know if you've shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually thinking drives are going to stall this game, so I think both defenses are going to play a bit harder, and I think there's going to be at least 4 field goals between the two teams. That's the prop that I set.
Interesting.
At least 4 field goals. And this is the beautiful thing with the Streakers app. I can pick whatever weird prop I feel like. At some point, I'm going to do a combined prop for the whole week. How many rouges are we going to get throughout the whole week? Because I love the rouge.
Ooh, that's a good one, yes.
But now my question is, combined points, 55, yes or less? Chazzy, yes or less to 55 combined points?
You know what? I was way off last week. I'm going to say yes.
The Canadian Football League is a much higher scoring league than the NFL. We never see any 6-3 finals.
I want to say no, so I'm going to say yes.
What are you thinking more for?
Oh, 100%. I think we're really going to see. I don't know, Kenny Lawler's going to have another 200-yard game, but I think he's going to have a big game. I think Brown's going to have a big game. So all of those guys have big games. I think we're going to see high points. So I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to say no. I think both of these defenses are going to play harder than they have over the last few weeks, as both these defenses have been embarrassed.
Huh.
Now, I want to move on to what I think will be the most entertaining game of the week, which is the Calgary Stampeders versus the Saskatchewan Roughriders on Friday night. This is whoever wins this, either the Roughriders can take a bit more of a stranglehold on the West with the Blue Bombers getting smoked last week, and then sending Calgary down to 3-2. Or Calgary can make the West a lot more interesting and tie the Roughriders and hand them their first loss of the season.
Now, does Vernon get more respect after this game if he pulls the W off?
I would say yes, because I don't think VA is getting enough credit for how good he is. So,
how much he's turned this team around just this early.
Well, and that's the thing I've said too. It's like, look, this is him still just getting comfortable with them. However, the game is in Saskatchewan, which Vernon Adams has struggled at times playing in Saskatchewan. It's a really tough barn to play in.
Oh, yeah. It's
one of the loudest in the Canadian Football League.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say Calgary gets it done. I think Calgary is a much better team. I have been having them higher in the power rankings than any other CFL analyst out there, except last week. Everyone finally starting to give them the respect that I think they deserve. This is a very good football team. They can run the ball really well. They have a dynamic quarterback and a good enough defense that they can make some plays.
Now, with these power rankings, are they just not getting VA just not getting the respect? And that's why
that's what it is, because everyone was like, at first, he hasn't thrown for any touchdowns. I'm like, yeah, but he's put together multiple touchdown drives.
Yeah, exactly.
I look at touchdown drives more than touchdowns thrown. Because if my quarterback takes it all the way to the 1 yard line and then the short yardage guy comes in and finishes the job, the short yardage guy gets the touchdown, even though it was your main quarterback who drew up who ran the whole series.
Right.
And if we want to go back and look, I mean, Calgary just smoked Winnipeg 37-16. Yeah, then they had that bad game against Ottawa, but then the week before that they beat Toronto 29-19, and then the week before that they beat Hamilton 38-26. They are scoring way more than they were before with Jake Maris, their quarterback. Like, this offense looks completely different. So I think Calgary puts a stamp on the league, and by the end of this week, they will be my number 1 rated team in the Canadian Football League.
Whoa.
What was it last year? 4 wins or 5 wins?
4. They weren't good. It was either 4 or 5.
Last year, Calgary got 4 wins, I think.
I think it was 5. But Dan, who are you taking, Dan? Are you taking AJ Ouellette and the Riders or VA and the Stamps?
I was hoping you were going to ask me last because this is a lot to think about here. I think with Jacob, this is going to be the most tight and interesting, exciting game of the week. But I'm going to go off the board and say the Rough Riders are going to win this game. I was a very big mistake on the island when I said I wasn't sold on the Rough Riders at the beginning of the year. Well, 6 weeks later, for 4-0, they're very, very good. And the reason why I think the Rough Riders are going to win a couple of reasons. One,
not a throuple.
If Jake Mayer gets the start,
it's Trevor Harris.
I'm just saying if he comes into this game for whatever reason. He has a lot to prove against Calgary because I know it's only 1 game, but Jake Mayer as a Rough Rider looked completely different as Jake Mayer as a Stampeder. He looked way better. Number 2, if Trevor Harris comes in and does finish the game, like what Jacob's predicting and says he's going to start and everything, Trevor Harris is healthier this year. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in CFL history, and he's a future Hall of Famer, and he wants to go out with a bang. And Saskatchewan is playing at home. Their defense is incredible. Their running game Kadeem Carey, one of my favorite running backs, can't be cracked for his roster. That's how good this team is, okay? Ouellette has looked amazing this year since he's lost to 15 pounds. I was amazing. I lost 15 pounds. But anyway, that's another story. But it's like, boy, the Rough Riders are a very good team, and I think they're going to get it done.
So, Chaz, you need to break the tiebreaker. Are you going to be wearing your cowboy hat on Saturday night?
Most definitely, yes.
So now let's go to our props. And I am going to start off with Mr. Moore 4. Will we see at least 4 sacks in this game combined?
Yeah, combined. Yeah, I think both these Saskatchewan's defense is very strong. Calgary really upgraded for defensive line getting flow. Yeah, I think they're going to get it done.
Mr. Chazzy 6.998. Will the Stamps get a combined 135 yards rushing?
Ooh,
yes.
Whoa.
That's going to be tough because, yes, the Stamps have had a good running game this year. Riders have one of the best defenses in the CFL. It's kind of a coin toss between them and Montreal. But
expect the unexpected? Yes.
And I will say Trevor Harris. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. Trevor Harris is going to put up at least 300 passing yards.
Whew.
He's going to be back. The Stampeders defense is better than last year, but you can still put some yardage up against them. They're kind of a bend but don't break defense. And I could see the Riders putting up some pretty good numbers offensively. Now, Trevor, if Jake Mayer ends up starting, I will last minute be frantically changing that prop to like 225. But if it's Trevor Harris, I'm sticking with the big 300. Now, combined 57 points, yes or less? Dan?
Yes.
I'm also saying yes. I think we're going to see a high-scoring game. Craig?
Yeah, I'm leaning on a yes with you guys, yes.
That means we're going to be wrong since Craig.
I know. That's what I'm concerned about.
Let's go to the last game of the week, which, by the way, I think this game will be better than what people are saying. So people think this will be the dud of the week. I don't think this will be the dud of the week at all. I think this is between the Elks and Lions. These are two teams that the Lions are really looking to put together a winning streak, and frankly, so are the Elks.
Yeah, they won the first game.
Like, both teams are really looking for a way to just win. So I'm going to start this train off and say the Elks win their second game of the year.
Where's this game being played?
In your basement. It's being played in Edmonton. In Commonwealth Stadium. On whatever street it's on. Chazzy, who do you think? Lions or Elks? What do you have for dinner? Lion or Elks?
The Elks won at home last week, no?
Yes, they did.
They're at home. They played well.
Very well.
I'm gonna lean with the home team.
All right, Dan, are you making this 3-0 or are you taking the Lions?
Sorry, McBoing TV, but I'm going with the Elks too. I think they looked really good last game, and I think everyone sees them as the worst team in the league. And I think we got something to prove if they're not the worst team in the league. Trey Ford's the most exciting quarterback, and if he screws up, well, we got a Grey Cup winning Cody Fajardo back there. So yeah, I think we're going to win.
Now, quick question. This isn't a prop, but maybe it should be. Will we see Cody Fajardo making random appearances in this game like there was last week?
Gosh.
Craig, add that to my prop list. Will Cody Fajardo take a non-short yardage snap?
A non-short yardage.
A non-short yardage snap.
Interesting.
And I'm going to say no. I think this game, they think, is every time they put Fajardo in for a series, it backfired last game.
Mm-hmm.
And they won, but like Trey Ford would go 9 for 9, then they put Fajardo in for a series for no reason. I love that Craig takes the notes of every random thing I ask him to do at 1:12 in the morning. So I appreciate that, Mr. Chazzy. The note taker. I might change your name at one point to the note taker. But now let's get to the actual prop that I actually prepared him for. And I'm going to start with Mr. Moore for your money. Nathan Rourke, like him, as much as his game wasn't perfect last week, did start to look a lot better, and that Lions offense looked a lot better, right? So that Lions offense was able to put together some needed yardage with a combined yardage for around 465 yards between passing and rushing. So my question is, can they put up at least 450 yards of offense between passing and rushing against this Elks defense? Hey, they did it last week against Montreal, man. I would argue Montreal's got a better defense than Edmonton. I'm
going to use one of your favorite sayings here, Jacob. Excellent. A broken clock is right 2 times a day.
Twice
and
a
what
day,
we saw last week was just a broken clock being right once. I don't think it's going to happen again. There's no way. 450 yards, yeah.
Send me a rivalry for that one, bro, because I think the Lions will get 450.
Whoa. Will do. I will send you rivalry that on Streakers out.
But Mr. Chazzy 6.998. Will Trey Ford have a combined 300 yards passing and rushing? Remember,
yes.
He does like to rush.
Ooh.
Okay, that was a very fast answer. You didn't.
No, but we're back in the Elks. Yes, he's gonna.
You did not need any time to think about that. Trey Ford last week threw for 212 and rushed for 14. So he did not do that last week against the Red Blacks, but he did put up 39 points of offense. Mine is, will there be at least 3 combined interceptions? And I'm going to say no. I think Trey Ford has gotten a lot better at protecting the ball. So was Nathan Rourke. He only threw 1 pick last week. Ford didn't throw any. So I'm seeing a lot of people projecting a high turnover ratio this game. And if it is, it's not going to be from quarterbacks throwing interceptions. So I think there will be less than 3 interceptions. Now let's play yes or less. Chazzy's least favorite game on the podcast. 48 points combined. Yes or less. Dan?
Less. Oh,
okay,
sorry.
Chazzy's just screw you.
No, it's so fast getting my mouth open yet.
What do you think, Dan?
I say yes.
I'm going with Chazzy, which means I'm probably going to be wrong, and I'm saying less.
I thought you were starting on the bottom level of Hollywood Square.
But that's all your games for CFL Week 6. Remember, like I said, just because there's only 3 doesn't mean they're not 3 exciting games kicking off on Friday Night Football tonight.
Of course, it'll probably all depend on if we go to the Hamilton game, but I'm sure we'll be live at some point in the weekend with
Absolutely.
one of these games. Probably Fridays for sure.
We at least do 1 live show a weekend. We're not going to break that promise to the Island team.
So keep an eye on social media, Zach timing on that. And we welcome all the comments and questions and awesome engagement. So
You know what? I would love to see someone try to engage to Dan on the island. Like get
Oh,
down on
yeah.
one knee and say,
Your
your fedora makes me want to be yours. But let's move on.
You can play along with us too by downloading the app.
What? Oh, we could put props on Dan's wedding. Will he get divorced in the next 6 months? Yes or no?
move over, Bachelor. We have a new game and new stud in town.
There we go. Oh my gosh, that's something I actually really want to do now for you streakers for weddings. Have like a backroom sports booth that the bride and groom can't see. Have their first major fight within the first 2 months. Yes or no?
Wow.
Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
This went off the wheels quick from CFL.
This is
Win
what
your own
happens when we don't
moments
have someone
card.
dashing his lane to look at.
Imagine picking that prop and then winning a moments card.
Out. Oh boy.
From the wedding, all happy and everything.
Oh no.
But I want to quickly touch on the new CBA in the NHL with 2 major changes. Thanks, Dan. 84 game seasons mean 2 less games in the preseason.
Love it.
Hate it. Should have been a wild card battle in the playoffs. More exciting. More exciting.
Wow.
But it is what it is. Speaking of playoffs, the salary cap is now going to be enforced during the playoffs.
Love it.
List it is a show. Love it or list it.
That's
I agree.
right.
I think this is great. You know what? The last couple of years, we've basically seen teams borderline cheat. It's not cheating if it's illegal, but I mean, if it's legal, but now it is going to be illegal in the NHL starting next season. So I will be curious to see how aggressive will teams be with the IR this year.
Oh.
If this is your last year to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Will a team say someone's injured and go trade for Connor McDavid?
Wow.
Just saying. If you don't know if you guys have looked at the free agent class for next year, it's
It's nuts.
Yeah.
I think
one of the
free
best
agent
in
frenzy
history.
next year will be a much more exciting day on the island than this year.
Put in an example: Ovechkin, Kopitar, and Malkin are one of the bottom of the best free agent list.
Oh yeah, the
All
best in that
future
class right now will
Hall of
be
Famers.
Which I'm not confident that McDavid's going to resign at Edmonton. That's a conversation for another day, but I'm not that confident.
Yeah, well, it depends on this year goes. You look at how bad Edmonton is thanks to the offseason. I do like the Matter signing and the Kapanen signing, but we didn't get a goalie. I think Edmonton might not even make the playoffs.
It's got the same crappy defense, mediocre goaltending, and no bottom 6. Like, this team's going to suck.
You lost Connor Brown, you lost Corey Perry.
I find it interesting. Chazzy, do you like the 84-game regular season, or do you like my idea better of doing a wild card playoff?
I'm not sold on the wild card sort of playoff idea.
Why not?
Another 2 games. I don't know. Like it seems like we're going backwards again. Wasn't it was 84 games there a while back? No.
Yeah, 93, 94 seasons with 84
but
games.
they're doing it now because they're saying this way we can have more division rivalries. But it's like it's 2 games. I don't see how it's going to make that big of an impact.
I think it will.
Yeah, I kind of find
another battle of Ontario, another battle of Alberta. Yeah, sign me up.
It's basically new revenue of regular season.
The NHL season, in my opinion, kind of drags.
You're just replacing preseason revenue with a couple of regular season.
Yeah, but let's have some playoffs instead. Like, I still say, imagine this year St. Louis and Calgary had a best of 3 to get the final playoff spot. You're tied in.
I just feel in hockey, like you get to the end anyway. The games are so intense. You're into it anyway. That I just don't know if you need that aspect.
Nah, I want more playoff games, bro. I've said that since we have more teams. I think.
But with hockey, you're almost in that playoff tempo mindset with these last games, no matter who.
Yeah, we're totally going to see that between Anaheim and San Jose in Game 84. Yep, that's what fans want.
Well, if they got to win or not.
Okay, but let's be honest. We know both of those teams are not going to make the playoffs.
Well, whoever's making the schedule, don't set it that way.
So we're going to see more 50-goal seasons now. We're seeing more 100-point guys. I think this is a good thing.
I want to see more playoff games. I want more teams in the playoffs. They're talking about bringing in more. They're talking about making the league up to 34, 35 teams. Like, when are we going to realize that 16 out of 34 or 35 is not enough teams that make the playoffs? And playoff hockey is so much. I'm sorry, but regular season hockey is so bloody boring after watching playoffs.
Well, 16 of 34 is half. That's about right.
No, I want more. Even if the first round is like some teams get a bye and you get like a best of 5, I still think it'd be better. Because the
I just find it. I don't know.
Sucks. We got to fix it.
I just wasn't there a discussion a couple of years ago where it's like, are these seasons too long? Are there too many regular seasons?
I think the regular season's too long. I think the regular season's too long. Also, too, I don't know why free agent frenzy and the draft are so close together, because now there's like nothing going on in hockey for the next like 3 months.
I know, it does suck.
Oh, Dan's gonna play some PlayStation.
There he goes. He's getting his channel ready. He's getting his Streakers
channel
ready.
Got Gran Turismo here in the background. I'm practicing, so keep your eyes on that.
But I will say I like the salary cap in the playoffs. Dan, I get what you're saying about the 84-game regular season. I just don't like it.
Yeah,
if anything, I think I might have actually shrunk the season a little down and got the playoffs started sooner.
But I heard one thing that the players wanted and they got were the sweats. They can come to the rink in their sweats.
Really?
I did. Yeah, no more.
Yeah, you don't have to dress up anymore. You can come in your.
Well, I disagree with that.
All right, Don Cherry.
What in hockey?
Oh, I disagree with that 100%. No. I mean, you're a pro athlete. You got kids looking up to you. You're heroes.
Here's what I think of Dan's take.
You just took yourself off, bud.
That's what I'm saying. I think you're being so idiotic, thinking that we should look up to a goon in a suit. If anything,
okay. So what? So you agree with like war veterans showing up in sweatpants?
If they
absolutely
wear sweatpants
for hockey, absolutely. It's not a fact.
Why the hell does a war veteran need to wear a suit
you're
to go
coming
watch
into
a
the
hockey
rink for like 30 seconds? Hockey, like they're coming in their warm-up suits. Absolutely.
Oh boy, I'm like.
William Nylander does not need to wear a suit on the subway to get to the ACC.
Well, he looks gorgeous either way.
And Dan, if players still want to wear suits, they can. It's not like they're being told they can't wear suits.
Well, he had a job. He'll tell them.
Well, that's why he doesn't have a job.
Yeah,
because he's worried about that instead of finding the best players. Go, dude, you have a beard. I don't want you. I'm Lou Morello. Oh
my god!
But no, like at the end of the day, I think making the players, forcing them to wear certain clothes, as long as what they're wearing isn't offensive, who cares? Like they shouldn't be able to wear a shirt that says like I effing hate anything, or like no profanity or nothing political or any of that stuff. But like, no, if
I would like to wear something political. Show their personal side.
Whatever. Anyways, like I look at it here as I just think the NHL. I look at the NBA. It hasn't hurt the league by letting LeBron James wear like Jordans instead of a suit.
Yeah, but the NBA is kind of known for that. You compare basketball players or hockey players.
That's why everyone says the NHL. The NHL needs to market to young people. Young people don't connect with some dude in a suit. They connect to the guy with the J's on and the chains and shows them William Nylander. Let him walk in shirtless every game. That'd be hysterical.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
Right? So why not? Then number 1, 2, all the ratings are going to go up to see how beautiful William Nylander is.
Oh, yeah.
So I agree with Craig on this one. That he hit it right on his beautiful nose. That this is the right move for the National Hockey League. But I want to move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs here, and unfortunately, it's about Ryan Reaves having dinner. I don't know why.
It's an amazing clip on Instagram. He ate so much Taco Bell. It's a true talent. I've never seen another human being do it.
Is Ryan Reaves going to sign in Vegas?
I don't know where he's going, but
I think someone's going to give him a contract. I said that on our free agent show. I think now he still has one more year in Toronto, right? So Toronto will buy him out.
He was in Vegas before Toronto, right?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
But what's interesting with Ryan Reaves, so he was on Andy Strickland and Cam Jensen's podcast, Cam and Strick podcast, very creative name, and he talked about Reaves about when he played in the summer. Talked about Mitch Marner signing the 8-year deal. First thing he said is, I went out for dinner with Mitchie, and then he smiled. You know, the classic Ryan Reaves smile. Mitchie earned the right to go wherever he wants. And he dedicated his whole career to Toronto, a hometown guy, and he poured everything he had into it. And sometimes it's just time to move on. I'm happy for him. He got the contract he deserved. But then he also asked him about, will Mitch Marner receive unfair treatment in Toronto? And this is the part that I found a little more interesting. I think they can be a little ruthless to him. And they're talking about the Leaf fans. I guess it's just because he's a hometown guy, and sometimes fans want to point fingers at somebody. I think there's two sides to the fans in Toronto. I think there's the one that just want to win so bad that they're willing to drag anybody through the dirt. And then there's the loyal fans that just want to cheer on a good team. There are a lot of fans there, so you get a lot of both. It's tough for any player when reading all the hate that you get, and it probably just gets frustrating. I say right with that quote there at that end part, I don't think Ryan Reaves steps on the ice for the Toronto Maple Leafs again.
Never.
Nothing against the man, but he's basically saying it's hard to play here. Yeah, and I don't think that's what fans want to hear.
No.
Right? It's like fans are paying. Like, let's be honest, it's not unrealistic for 2 tickets to drop $1,000 to go see a game.
Oh, yeah, easy. Probably
and if I'm dropping $1,000 to see a game, I don't want my player that I'm paying $1,000 to watch, who makes $12 million a year, complaining I'm too hard on him. Go get him. I don't care, right? And that's kind of, I don't know if you guys agree with me or not.
I agree,
and I do agree with him again when he said Mitch earned the right to do whatever he wants. That's how contracts work. I don't fully understand why Leaf fans are so mad that he left.
Do you know why everyone's mad? Because he said, just cut the BS and stop lying about it. He's saying for 8-9 years, like, oh, I just want to be a Maple Leaf. I was in my pajamas. I want to bring the cup. Blah, blah, blah. Shut the up, you. Yeah, shut up, okay? You want to stand there and say, yeah, give me like $12 million. I want to be on a highlight reel. I want to do it in my underwear in Vegas. Then fine, I would respect you as a man. Right now, I don't respect you.
So here's one Leaf fan.
So I'm going to do the best thing you can do when Dan goes on a rant, which is mute his mic so I can get a word in. I kid, Dan, I kid. But what I do think about this, though, at the end of the day, people leave jobs all the time. At the end of the day, this is just a job.
Yeah.
He came to Toronto, and people say he didn't try. I don't feel that he didn't try. I just don't feel he's built for playoff hockey.
How do you not try with 103 points?
That's kind of my point.
I don't care about the season. Okay, what? Prime example.
Let's try and get my point in. My point is that's how you get a point in with more for your money. My point is, at the end of the day, Mitch Marner didn't fit the mold the Leafs are trying to go to.
What, your DNA?
A change. I will unmute Dan's mic so he can talk, but I hope he lets me finish. At the end of the day, it didn't matter if it was William Nylander, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews. Out of the 3 of them, if one of their contracts was up, one of them was out the door. There was no ifs or buts about it. And I think Brad Treliving is playing it the other way. So for the fans who wanted him to stay, they're not going to whine saying, oh, we didn't try to keep him. Treliving could say he made an offer even though he knew he wasn't going to accept it. And at the end of the day, we still got Nicholas Waugh, who is a very good player for him.
Oh, for sure.
And I do get Reaves' point to a point about fans in Toronto. I think it is difficult to play in Toronto. But I also think it's a huge reward to play in Toronto. You're playing in one of the most legendary sports cities in the world. I feel the same way in Montreal. I think there's just as much pressure in Montreal to play there, if not more, than there is in Toronto, right? Like, you look when Saku Koivu left Montreal, everyone was furious at him. The guy had been a loyal captain for like years, right? So it's one of those things. Then you play in these markets, it's tough. But there's a lot of reward and upside. And if you don't want to play in the market anymore, then why does the team want you? But I don't know. I also find it really weird that what makes news in Leaf Nation is having dinner with Mitch Marner, and a guy that was not skated for the Toronto Maple Leafs in a very long time. I mean, when he was on the team, he didn't really skate. Is making headlines because he says that Marner was allowed to accept a contract that he was allowed to accept.
Well, shows you how bad an off season it is this year.
No, the Dan Leafs of all this is but I will say this is the biggest problem with Leaf fans. It's kind of like the way we drove Phil Kessel out of Toronto, and then he went on to win multiple Stanley Cups.
Nazem Kadri
as well. We ran him out of town, right? It's
Mitch
just one of
Marner
those.
wins
We
a
ran
cup.
Curtis Joseph out of town. We've ran a lot of really high-end players out of town. Now, I think with the Marner situation, it's different because the core four needed to change. But I think now is the time to just be like, okay, he's gone. Okay, let's just focus on who we have.
You look at Gary
Focus on your new
Roberts.
DNA.
You look at Gary Roberts, right? I think he should be a Hall of Famer. He's a great person, great hockey player. Gary Roberts was just on an interview saying that out of his 20-plus year career, his 4 years in the Maple Leafs were by far the hardest of his career. But he was so thankful for them, and he said it was the best time in his career because the Maple Leaf fans make you accountable. And, he said how a great honor was to play in the Mecca of hockey. And, I'm mad at Mitch Marner. However, I am not mad at Kawhi Leonard. It has a very similar situation. Kawhi Leonard.
Not at all a similar situation. Kawhi Leonard was traded here on a 1-year deal. Mitch Marner was drafted and was supposed to be the franchise's hero.
But Kawhi Leonard put 110% on the court the whole time he was here, even though he didn't want to be here, and got the job done. So I'm not mad that he left.
But you just said, Annalise, you said Mitch Marner was supposed to be your franchise guy. So why didn't you put the C on him right from the get-go?
Whoa.
Okay, but I don't think Austin Matthews should have got the captain either. I don't think John Tavares should have got the captain.
Absolutely.
I don't think John Tavares should have been the captain.
I don't think you should have taken it off of John Tavares.
No, I don't think John Tavares should have got in the first place. John Tavares shouldn't have got in the first place. This has been Morgan Riley's team since day one.
Yeah.
Since this rebuild. Mm-hmm. Morgan Riley should be the captain. He's the one that always goes to the media. He's the one that always talks to the officials. He's the one that
charity work. Yes, tons of charity work.
And I think I'm going to keep this a buck here too. I don't like it when teams make these young players their captain. I don't think your captain's your best player. I think your captain's your leader, right? So,
well,
it's interesting. Ryan Reaves also talked about Austin Matthews being a captain, right?
Ooh.
And he said, I feel he looks more reserved than he is when he's talking to the cameras. But he's a great guy that loves to joke around, hang out with the boys. He was one of the boys in Toronto for sure. But
one of the boys to score. But to your point, is he that leader as much as he can score?
That's my thing with him, right? And does he want it? Does he actually want to be the leader? I don't know. I don't think taking. I wouldn't have given the captaincy to Tavares in the first place, but I agree with you, Chazzy. I wouldn't have taken it off him, but I don't think he did anything wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
But sorry, go ahead, Dan.
What I'm interested in Austin Matthews, and no one's really talking about it. I don't know why this is not making more headlines, but it's not. He did sign a deal with Netflix, and he's making a series about why he's committed to stay in Toronto and be the captain of Toronto Maple Leafs. I thought it was fascinating that he did this right after Mitch Marner left. Because Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews have been, I don't know I can say that, having really good friends ever since they got drafted to this team, right? And I do agree with you, Jacob, that the captain should not be the most skilled player. You look at Ovechkin and Crosby, who are legendary captains
Ovechkin should have been the captain at the time he was named captain.
I agree, but let me finish.
Crosby
right now, they're legendary captains. And they both said the best leaders and captains they had were Chris Clark for Washington, who did get 30 goals once, but he's not a franchise player by any means, and Gary Roberts, who was definitely not a franchise player by the time he got out of Pittsburgh. No. They were the best leaders, and they taught the best captains to be captains. So how can Austin Matthews be this great captain when he never had anyone like that playing for him, right?
No, but Dan, I don't necessarily think we don't know if Matthews is a bad captain yet. I don't think 1 year is enough to really judge it.
True.
I don't know. I wouldn't have named him captain now. Funny enough, I wouldn't have named Ovechkin captain. Crosby was a different story because, Crosby's just a different breed. I think Sidney Crosby will go down as the greatest hockey player in NHL history. When his career is all said and done, you're not going to be talking about Wayne Gretzky being the greatest anymore. You're going to be talking about Sidney Crosby.
I think it could arguably be Jaromir Jagr, but that's another story.
But they did talk about Reaves did talk about two other players. Talked about William Nylander, and funny enough, how he said William Nylander is the most skilled player he's ever played with, which I thought that was interesting when he was talking about Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews as well.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting that he mentioned that William Nylander was the most skilled. And one other weird thing about the Marner situation before I move on to Reaves' final comments about Matthew Nyes is I do find it odd that the players didn't post all the best on social media the way they normally do. Would players leave?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think Marner left on good terms in Toronto. Like, not just with the coaches and the GM. I don't think he left on good terms with the players. So it'll be very interesting. There's rumors from that the Leafs are going to play Vegas very early in the season.
Yeah, I hope
so. I think
but are players just saving face in what the public because of the black guy, let's say Marner has on leaving Toronto? Do you think they're just not going to socially mention anything?
Yeah, but Matthew Nyes did. No one else did, but Matthew Nyes did. So it's an odd one. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jacob. If they go Austin Matthews to make this Netflix series way after saying why he's committed to stay here,
signed way before that. Netflix just announced it now because they have nothing else going on.
I don't know.
I do know because I work in broadcasting.
No, I'm not disputing that. I just mean I think there's more to it from what people are reading into it.
But marketing and you want new DNA, so now you're Austin Matthews. Captain.
Oh, I get it. I
get
DNA.
It. Yeah. Now you want to make it Hollywood, so here you go. We get a Netflix series.
But now the last one I want to talk to is Matthew Nyes, who had a career year in Toronto, just signed a 46.5-6-year deal with the Leafs. And Reaves called him a player who doesn't come around very often in the NHL. I said at the very beginning of last year, he's the one guy I was most excited to see. You do those skates before training camp, and you just think of a kind of 5-on-5 shinny just look. He's confident, high skill, and he's big. Again, he's one of those guys that they don't come around very often. Where they play really physical, they can put the puck in the net. It's hard to take him off the puck. He's good in front of that. He has good hands. He's one of those complete packages, a strong guy, a player you want on your team. And it's interesting. I'm on TML updates right now, and the comments on there saying, "Here's your future captain," and Matthew Nyes.
Yeah.
So I find it curious though that like the players he seem to more brag about their skill sets. Now, mind you, I haven't listened to the full podcast to hear the questions that were leading into these set answers, but it's interesting from the quotes that more of the skill sets he was more talking about Nylander and Nyes. Now, Matthews, the whole captaincy thing makes a lot of sense. But I don't think Ryan Reaves plays another game in the NHL the way he's talking about players and times in other cities and when he was in Toronto. It sounds like he knows he's done.
I think so, yeah, unfortunately.
But it's interesting there from Revo. I just thought those were interesting to talk about besides of just – I don't know what he had for dinner, unfortunately. I'm hoping it was chicken parm. Chicken parm is pretty darn good. I hope Marner paid.
Yeah, I would hope
considering he just got $12 million. Now, a guy who didn't get $12 million but who just got paid is Gavin McKenna. This
one thing I wanted to mention just before we move on to McKenna on that new CBA.
What
is there anything looking into these contracts going from an 8-year term to a 7? And with the free agency class we're talking about going next year, do you think we're going to does that open the door for $15-16 million contracts?
Oh, yes. Interesting question.
100%. We're going to see the first $16 million contract in the NHL.
To Connor McDavid.
Okay, so that shortening of these terms, max, say that's 7 years. What you're saying is these contracts over a year could get a little bit bigger.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because there are so many good players coming available.
Well, now and with the max deals being 7, I just find, I don't know.
But just interesting here, right? I just kind of want to name a couple quick guys here quick. Connor McDavid, Panarin, Bobrovsky, Eichel, Ovechkin, Kaprizov, Laine, Trouba, Carlson, Kyle Connor, Kopitar, Marty Necas, Evgeny Malkin, Jacob Markstrom. I could see Trevor Zegras having a really big year in Philly, and maybe he gets paid. Like there are a lot of. I'm just going down further down the list, and then I see like a Jordan Eberle way down at the bottom of the list.
But I think we're going to see probably 35% of this signed before, because these are franchise players, no?
I don't know. I think
That's
if
true,
locking
too.
them up.
your shake. I could, if let's say Colorado has another mediocre. Let's say Colorado has a first round exit. I could see Cale Makar saying he wants out. And if
No, but
Evan
you got a lot
Bouchard
of
just
teams
got
that are
10
going to
and a
have
half,
to.
if Evan Bouchard just got 10 and a half, is Cale Makar not worth 14?
No, but you got a
Yeah,
lot
I
of teams
guess
going
so.
into the trade deadline on what do? You make a push, or do you lose these guys?
Now the big question is, Craig, Carey Price is a free agent. You know, who's going to sign up that stud? But
That's sad how it's
actually, I'm going to say my projection for one of the bigger contracts will be Kaprizov. I could see him wanting out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And a team I think will be
He could get big money.
He could get 14, 15.
Easy.
Same with Panarin will be a tough one because he'll be 35, 36 around then. So that'll be tough with his age to figure out how much he gets.
Well, New York,
that
New York Rangers window is closing.
It is, yeah. Especially JT Miller is not any younger, right?
Well, I think they made a couple. They're gonna make. Well, New York should be better than last year.
And two, there's also Jack Eichel. I don't think he'll resign in Vegas because you just paid Marner all that money.
Right.
And Jack Eichel's going to get more than 10.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I think we could see multiple $13 million players. Like, if McDavid, Panarin, Eichel, Kaprizov, and Makar all become available.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say this. I think Makar could get as much as Ovechkin. I mean, as much as McDavid, sorry.
Hey, if Edmonton's looking at trade deadline, missing the playoffs, what do you do with McDavid? I guess
if
you got to go all in.
You have to move him.
Oh, sir.
That's going to be.
That could be one of the biggest trades in history.
That could be like a Wayne Gretzky type trade where it's like
that's what I'm thinking. It's almost like a deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, yeah. 99,
I think it's the same thing too for Colorado if Cale Makar doesn't want to resign.
Yeah.
Unless you're making a cup push.
Well, these are the decisions you're going to have to make. These teams are going to have to make.
I think Cale Makar is comparable to Connor McDavid. I really do.
Yeah, I think so.
I think Cale Makar is that good, and he's only getting paid $9 million a year right now. I think that salary could almost double. I think you could pay him 16. The max that year is going to be $19.5 million, so McDavid could get 17, 18. I could see Makar getting 15, 16.
Why are they not getting the max?
Well, because teams want to be able to afford other players.
Well, they really haven't set that ceiling.
If a guy like Connor McDavid gets 16, could Kyle Connor get like 10 to 12?
Like, yep.
Right? It's gonna. That's why I'm surprised Mitch Marner signed such a long deal.
Yeah,
I really thought he was going to sign a shorter deal. But it's going to be very interesting in the NHL. And what you said, Craig, I think with being 7-year deal maxes, I think that will change the landscape of these contracts. I think we're going to see more shorter deal, big paydays. Like you might see Jack Eichel sign a 3-year, $15 million a year contract.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
So I don't know. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. And I'm also learning on this page that if I got a hotel at Verbo, I could save 7%. We're not sponsored by Verbo.
Knew that was coming.
I was like, half the tax.
I would now like to move on to Gavin McKenna. And I'm fascinated by this because, Craig, I think you understand the NIL deals more than I do. How much money do you think this kid could be getting paid this year?
If it's not this year or next year, he could make more money than his first entry-level NHL contract.
Wow.
Some of these deals.
So you think he could make over $1 million in a year?
Oh my God, he'd probably make over a few $1 million. Don't forget, Arch Manning is 6.8, I think, his Neil deal in football. So, and that's nothing about other sponsorships that he's going to have or other things that he's going to have going on. So, for he's got 700 on his first Neil deal. Like, yeah, he's going to be a millionaire before he even steps. So on a professional sheet of ice.
Is this going to make it harder for the CHO to keep the high end talent.
I
I'm
told
really
you guys
paying
this is the
like $50 a game.
the switch. This is where we're seeing the switch.
Wow.
And I hate to say this because I'm a big supporter of these junior A leagues, but I think you look at like the NOJHL and the OJHL and those type of leagues from the CJHL, the Canadian Junior Hockey Leagues. Those are the leagues that may suffer because you're going to see those players, like you're going to see like top-notch players from the OJHL, for example, move up. Like you look at a Colton Smith out of Leamington. You may see a guy like him moving up to the OHL if these other top-tier players in the OHL are moving on to NCAA. Now, mind you, there are a lot of good players in Junior B, so maybe this will just get more eyes on the Junior B players. Because, Craig, when you and I were talking off camera about it, you seem more positive about this situation than I do.
Yeah, I think the puppy sent us the breaking news when this happened.
He did,
and it switched. It came right to me as like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is how the whole landscape of hockey is going to change. And what came to my mind was football and basketball in college sports being the NCAA. Here comes hockey now to sort of like, because now you have Penn State, and then they had to counter because Michigan just got a couple big studs into their program. So the puppy might be able to shed some light on it for us next week. Maybe we'll get his analysis. But this is where I think just more the NCAA and schools and what we see football and basketball. I think we're going to see more hockey talk and these nil deals for hockey players. And like you said, like we said earlier, like the WHL, you just lost your generational stud. Yeah. Which is going to play next year, the next 2 years, right?
Type player.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my next question is, and I'm sure, Dan, you remember the old college basketball games back in the day, video games. They're bringing that back. College football video games have been the highest selling sports game in sports gaming history. If NCAA hockey starts to blow up more, will we see an NCAA hockey game, which will give these players even more access to money and exposure?
Because 100%.
Right now, also, too, does it change the gaming landscape? Let's say 2K Sports makes NCAA hockey. Now, all of a sudden, you have two competing gaming studios trying to put out an equivalent simulation sports game. Because I'm just going to keep it real here. Sports video games are terrible compared to what they were 15 years ago. Like, sure, they look more realistic, but like, it's bad that I still can't find a better playing football game than 2K's All Pro Football 2K8.
Well, you know what? I think what we could see is we could see NCAA as another, I don't know, chapter or division is the right word, but another part of the EA hockey. So you look at EA hockey right now. If they don't have a separate game for the CHL, versus CHL teams in the game. And I think right now you just have the CHL teams in the game. I think what you could do is you could play a full CHL season in Dynasty mode versus instead of an NHL, or be a pro in the CHL for a full season versus NHL. And you look at, I think we could do that with the Swedish League leads and the KHL and that kind of thing. So I think instead of kind of a whole new hockey game, I think NCAA would just be a part of EA 25, like the Olympics and the international teams and that kind of thing.
I don't see that the way you're saying. Maybe for like a year one, add it to be a pro where instead of playing the Memorial Cup, you could play the Final Four. But I think I think 2K Sports, who has been rumored to come back into the hockey landscape, is going to take this opportunity to make a college hockey video game. Or does EA get away from professional sports and go to all college? Like right now, for example, college football is outselling Madden football.
No, you need the professional sports.
Yes, it is.
No, I get that. I'm just not arguing. I'm not just saying that. I'm just saying you still need the professional sports.
Everyone wants 2K to make simulation real, like professional sports, because let's be honest, they do a better job at making sim games. So does 2K take that, and does EA go to strictly just college? Does 2K come back and make a hockey game, NHL game, and then EA say we're going to go make an NCAA hockey game? instead. But what I mean is, by doing this, I don't believe the CHL players get paid for their likeness in the EA games. If they do, it's not much.
Yeah.
The players in college football actually make a decent amount of change being in college football with these NIL deals. So I wonder, are more players going to be intrigued? You look at Michael Misa, for example. Maybe instead of going after he's done his CHL career, maybe he's going to jump ship and go NCAA. Will more players follow? I think the big thing will be, will Gavin McKenna's draft stock drop playing NCAA? That will be the $1 million.
That'll be $1 million question, yeah. Literally
if his draft stock doesn't drop, we are going to see a lot more high-end CHL players go play in the NCAA.
Wow.
Get a really good education. Because screw it, they can go to Princeton while getting paid to play hockey. Like, why not?
And getting an education.
And getting that's what I mean. Imagine going to Harvard and getting paid $700,000.
Don't forget, when you go to Harvard or Princeton, you're not just walking in and getting handed a degree. You gotta work your butt off to get that thing. You could see players being like, "No, I don't want to work that hard to get my degree."
I just think it sets up.
Why would you vote?
Well,
I mean, I know, but seriously, I mean, I can see going into university once you're done hockey, but you're supposed to focus on your NHL career and get a degree? A lot of people can't even get a degree by itself. Never mind building.
Dan, there's a lot
but
of
how's that
people
any different than basketball, football, or any other college athlete that's trying to?
Oh, it's not any different. But I'm just saying, we see a lot of these great young athletes burn out in college too. No one talks about that, but it happens.
But also you never know about injuries. What happens if an injury happens and now you have an education and now you can finish it and then you got a career in post sports?
Well, I agree. It makes sense to do it. I'm just making the comment.
Chazzy, I think you'd have a different perspective because you're a parent. Let's say you have your 16-year-old kid who's about to go into whether they want to be in the PWHL or the NHL, because I could also see this opening up the doors for women's hockey and NCAA.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's no real high-end junior women's league. But my question is, let's say you're a parent and they can go play for the Barrie Colts, get a mediocre education, or they can go play hockey in Princeton, make some money, and get one of the best educations money can buy that they don't have to pay for. Where are you going to tell your kid to go?
If it was 5 years ago, option A. If I'm looking at sort of the tea leaves moving forward, it's option B.
So that's what I mean. So I wonder too, will this force the CHL to start paying these players fairly? CHL teams make a lot of money. So will, you look at
well, forget about the leagues. This gives the student athlete another opportunity to play sports, but also further their education. Where, just like you said, it's either pro sports or you're working, trying to continue your semi-pro or pro league career, where now you're going to get an education. You get hurt in your mid-20s. At least you have something to fall back on with this education. I just find it's very exciting. I find where, it's going to open up, mind you, some of the Canadian leagues are probably not going to like it because we're going to lose some of the Canadian talent going to these schools. But I don't think, getting back to your guys' draft, I just feel this is a recipe of what we see in the NFL, what we see in the NBA, and the hype. I think that's coming to the hockey program, and this is what seems to be walking into.
But just an interesting point here, the average OHL team generates between $7 to $10 million in profit in ticket revenue alone per season. This is not including sponsorship, merchandise sales, and broadcast revenue. And they're paying these kids $50 a game.
Oh, it's crazy.
Right?
I was gonna say,
so maybe now I'm not saying they can't give a kid $700,000 the way they can in the States, but maybe they can say to them, hey, while you're here, we're going to cover your entire tuition of a 4-year program in university in Canada, which right now the education program, only certain players get scholarships. It's not everybody.
That's not fair.
Funny enough, the OJHL in some ways does more for their players off the ice than the OHL. The OHL for their communities in 23-24 made over $450 million, the Ontario Hockey League. So this league has money to pay these players. They've just never needed to because they said, well, go play somewhere else. You can't. Well, now you can. So I think this is going to put pressure on the CHL teams, especially in the OHL, because the OHL makes more money than any other junior league.
Well,
Western Hockey League's the next closest, with between the average team making between $2 to $4 million in ticket revenue sales, which again, that's not including sponsorship, merchandise, and broadcast revenue. You would not believe the broadcast revenue that these leagues are making too.
Crazy.
So,
these young student athletes coming up, this just gives them more opportunity, and it's a whole new ballgame.
I'm going to say this: it's good for the athletes. It's going to be hard for the junior A leagues.
It's going to be very competitive now.
It's going to be very competitive to see, because you're going to see a lot of, because usually what it used to be is you played in the OJHL or these other leagues to try to get into a college Division I or Division III program. I still think you're going to see that, but I think you're going to see these players in the OJHL maybe only play 1 to 2 years instead of 4, because they're going to play a year. You're going to look at like Ryder Cali, for example, at a Milton. Everyone called him the super rookie. And he's going to he's going to be offered which actually I do think he's going to Division I next year. Excuse me. But what I mean is you're going to see more of that one and done, I think, in junior hockey in Canada.
Yeah.
Which the only good thing about that is, in a way, it is going to open up a lot more spots for these young players, because there are a lot of good players who just don't get their eyes on them. You go to an OJHL or an NOJHL game, you will not believe the talent level that are in these junior A leagues.
Oh, it's great hockey.
Down from the Canadian Hockey League. And I do think this will put pressure on the teams in the OHL to be paying their players correctly.
I mean,
go ahead.
As I say, prime example, we talked about this on a podcast a few months ago. When Zach Hyman bought the Brantford Bulldogs, we thought, oh, we should go see a game. The tickets started at $78. I mean, that's way more than an Argo game. And CFL is a professional sport. It's more than a baseball game. I mean, the Jays start at $25, right? We're starting at $78 for juniors. Just put it in perspective of how crazy it is.
It is, and what's crazy as well, this is the report where I'm getting these numbers, by the way. Rick Westlet wrote a article about this. So funny enough, this is back in 2016. He reported that teams were making between $7 to $10 million in ticket revenue.
Oh, so it's way higher now.
So it's way higher now. And at the time, with the amount of work the players are putting in, they're being paid of an equivalent of $11.25 an hour.
That's ridiculous.
And the player pay has not gone up since then. Like, CHL franchises are worth millions. I just think it'll be very interesting to see. Like, Niagara Ice Dogs at the time was evaluated at $8.3 million. So the Ice Dogs that year generated 2.7 on just ticket revenue alone.
Yeah.
So it'll just be very interesting to see. Does this put? I think this Gavin McKenna, this one player, could start a revolution in junior hockey.
Oh, for sure. We're witnessing history, like what Chazzy pointed out a few episodes ago in Black Pup. We're witnessing history, not just with the skill of Gavin McKenna, but how he's pursuing getting to the NHL. We're witnessing hockey history in business here. It's pretty amazing.
But do you know what else needs to go in the history books? This episode.
Yeah, right.
It's been the longest episode we have ever done with a 3-man team in an hour and 2 minutes so far and counting. So we will have to save the Sidney Crosby talk for next week.
Ooh.
But yes, I know Craig really wants Sidney Crosby to come play in Montreal. But before we go, Mr. Moore, for your money,
yes,
what is your island mindset for today?
Well, I was just going to say, it was just a fascinating episode. We were talking a lot about the business of sports, which is something I want to personally talk about. Chazzy's an expert at it, so that was really cool. And with the NCAA video game talk, we actually got talking about esports. So hopefully look for more esports talk and more sports business talk on the island here. So very, very cool. But I want to give a shout out to a friend of the program who comments on our live shows over time. TW Curran, as we all call him, Shades, for certain reasons. But he sent me a very interesting post a couple days ago, and it really made me think. And it was a whole video on Instagram. So I'm not going to talk about the whole video, but the main point of the video was your presence matters. And what it talks about is it doesn't mean not just what you do in that minute, in that moment, that situation. It's like, even if you don't know it at the time, someone else in the universe cares about you, and you made a difference for that person, even if they're not right in front of you, right? Like, someone's going to remember a time you made them smile, a time you hugged them, a time you were there for them, right? And that presence matters to yourself and those people. And, you know, he just messaged me and said, hey, just because I'm not always around all the time because of, you know, traveling around in different situations, it doesn't mean you're always there for you, right? And it's so true. It's so great. I wanted to give Shades a shout out. And yeah, that's a great point he made.
And give Shades a happy birthday. It was his birthday.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that. Yes. Yesterday.
Happy birthday to Shades. Happy birthday to Shades. Happy birthday, dear Shades. Happy birthday to you.
Eat the
I want to
microphone.
point out
And
Two.
many more.
it's pretty
Are you
legendary.
on? Oh, you know, I'm just kidding.
Pretty legendary day because it's also Buchanan's birthday today, a great friend of
Happy
Come on.
birthday
Come on,
to
program.
Josh. Happy birthday to Josh. Happy birthday, dear Buchanan. Happy birthday. I said happy birthday to
He's available for parties.
Exactly. And both these people are so important.
Anniversaries.
Both these people are
and
so
divorce
important
parties.
because wow. Both these people are so important because Shades thought of the idea more for your money. That was his idea. And Josh Buchanan, as we call ourselves Joda when we worked together, he helped me make my very first Facebook, Instagram video in car sales, which really blew up to more of your money. He was my camera guy for 4 hours to make one car video. But
And
that's what gave me
remember,
the confidence to
I was
start
the
it.
one that told you not to make every video sitting at your desk.
Because that's how we used to do it.
And I
And you
watched
gave us-
it, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
You gave us the idea to do more, and we did it. So, you know, thanks to him, and quick thanks to someone else, too. Alan and Sue St. Marie, another great friend of mine.
Happy,
Yeah. And it's his birthday, too. So, great birthday.
His
to
candles
Alan.
on the
happy
oven.
birthday to Alan. Happy birthday
The War Car
to
Sunday.
you. Happy birthday, dear Alan. Happy birthday to you.
Not that we're sponsored by the birthday song, but
Yeah, exactly. We could be.
By the way, if you want a birthday shout out done by the Streakers Island podcast, let us know.
Oh, great idea. Yes.
I will make,
more shout outs. We
I
can do
will
that,
get,
too.
you know what? For $10, we'll get Craig to jump out of some sort of cake. He'll be fully clothed, but don't worry. But you know what? On that
$20, I'll be half clothed.
Thank you,
no, none of that. But on that bombshell, before Dan starts taking off his Wynton McManus Argo shirt, we got to go. Thank you so much for watching the Streakers Island podcast. We will see you on the weekend for one of our live shows. See ya.
Bye-bye.